Concerning the super-eruptions of supervolcanoes, geologists believe that they found a possible trigger for volcanic super-eruptions. This is by Oregon State University. The super-eruption of a major volcanic system occurs about every 100,000 years. It's considered one of the most catastrophic natural events on Earth, yet scientists have long been unsure about what triggers these violent explosions, and we know that they are extinction-level events in most cases. Now, the new model presented by researchers at Oregon State University points to a combination of temperature influence and the geometric configuration of the magma chamber as a potential cause for these super-eruptions. Results for the research, which was funded by National Science Foundation, were presented in the meeting of Geological Society of America in Minnesota. Patricia Trish Gregg, postdoctoral researcher at OSU and lead author of the modeling study, says the creation of a ductile halo of rock around the magma chamber allows the pressure to build over tens of thousands of years, resulting in extensive uplifting in the roof above the magma chamber. Eventually, faults from above trigger a collapse of the caldera and subsequent eruption. She says you can compare it to cracks forming on the top of baked bread as it expands. Now, I did make a few videos back on the cracks at Yellowstone. You'll find that about 5 videos back. It's a normal process, of course, but she says that as the magma chamber pressures at depth, cracks form at the surface to accommodate the doming and expansion. And we know that we have inflation of Yellowstone. You'll see that in that video. We looked at the GPS deformations, and that is inflating around the area of northwest Wyoming and around also Hebgen Lake. Now, she says eventually the cracks grow in size and propagate downward towards the magma chamber. So these cracks from the earth go down towards the magma chamber. And here are some of the cracks at Yellowstone. These happened a couple of years back, and you can see how deep they are and how wide they are. 100 feet deep, 100 feet across, and even more. So these are just expanding. And she claims that they can go down from the surface to the magma chamber. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box. Patricia Gregg takes Yellowstone as an example. She will also cite other supervolcanoes of the world, but we know that Yellowstone is one of the high-threat volcanoes of the United States, and it's also has the world's 60% of the world's geysers and over 10,000 hydrothermal areas. And these are just one of the pictures of the geyser areas, geyser basins. So what she has found is the cracks go down towards the magma chamber eventually. Gregg says, in the case of very large volcanoes, when the cracks penetrate deep enough, they can rupture the magma chamber wall and trigger roof collapse and eruption. So obviously these cracks are done by, what can we call, obviously they would have tremors and earthquakes to crack these things. Now the eruption of supervolcano dwarfs the eruptions of recent volcanoes and can trigger planetary climate change by inducing ice age and other impacts. One such event was the Huckleberry Ridge eruption of present-day Yellowstone Park about 2 million years ago, which was more than 2,000 times larger than the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens in Washington. 2,000 times larger. Gregg says, short of a meteor impact, these super-eruptions are the worst environmental hazard our planet can face. She says huge amounts of material are expelled, devastating the environment and creating a gas cloud that covers the globe for years. Previous modeling efforts have focused on an eruption trigger from within the magma chamber, which scientists thought would leave a visible trace in the form of a precursor eruption deposits according to Shanaka Shan de Silva, an OSU geologist and co-author of the study. Yet there has been a distinct lack of physical evidence for a precursor eruption at the site of these supervolcanoes. The model suggests the reason there may be no precursor eruption is that the trigger comes from above, not from within, De Silva says. So this is a very, very different approach to seeing how supervolcanoes erupt. Many people believe, geologists believe, that it has to do with the magma chamber and inflation and then eruption. Well, these people believe that it has to do with the cracks from above going down towards the magma chamber. Now, instead of taking the evidence in these eruptions as face value, most models have simply taken small historic eruptions and tried to scale the process up to supervolcanic proportions, De Silva said. Those of us who actually study these phenomena have known for a long time that these eruptions are not simply scaled up at Mazamas or Krakatoas. The scaling is nonlinear. The evidence is clear. It takes a perfect storm, quote unquote, of conditions to grow an eruptible magma chamber of this size, Greg says, which is one reason supervolcanic eruptions have occurred infrequently throughout history. The magma reservoirs feeding the eruptions should be as large as 10,000 to 15,000 cubic kilometers, and the chamber requires repeated intrusions of magma from below to heat the surrounding rock and make it malleable. It is that increase in ductility that allows the chamber to grow without magma evacuation in a more conventional manner. When magma chambers are smaller, they may expel magma before maximum pressure is reached through frequent small eruptions. The Yellowstone eruption is one of the largest supervolcano events in history, and it has happened several times. Other supervolcano sites include Lake Toba in Sumatra, the Central Andes Mountains, and New Zealand, the Taupo volcano on the North Island, and Japan. Greg said that despite its explosive history, it does not appear that Yellowstone is primed for another super-eruption anytime soon, though the slow process of volcanic uplift is taking place every day at Yellowstone, as we saw in just 5 videos back, the crack video. Okay, so yes, it's uplifting and it's inflating. She explains when the Huckleberry Ridge eruption took place, the uplift of the whole Yellowstone region would have been hundreds of meters high, perhaps as much as a kilometer. This is by Oregon State University on phys.org, and you can see here that their claim is the fact that the eruption can happen from a crack from above from the surface, penetrating down towards the roof of the magma chamber that would crack the roof and then cause the eruption to start. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support.